Okongwu, to me, is one of those guys where he sort of symbolizes how wacky this draft could be. We talked about him a little bit on Friday's show with Man and Sharks, but I want to hit him again real quick. Onyeka Okongwu, USC center. The Charlotte Hornets really, really like him at the third pick, and I've been told, these things can change, but it sounds like that could be their guy with the third pick if Wiseman is not on the board. But when it comes to the potential trades on draft night, I continue to hear, including this morning, that Minnesota is having a lot of conversations with teams to trade down, including Charlotte at number 3, because they'd like to move up and get Wiseman. And this, Okongwu, to me, is one of those guys where he sort of symbolizes how wacky this draft could be. This is a guy who could go third, but if he doesn't go third, could he fall to 9 or 10? He very well could, and he's somebody a lot of teams like because of his potential versatility on the defensive end of the floor, 6'9", 245 pounds. He can defend bigger guys, but he also has some quickness to switch screens in the perimeter. There's a Bam Adebayo type of element to him, in addition to the fact that he's a great finisher around the rim, a good decision maker. He can handle a little bit for you. There's some potential there for him to be more than just like a rim protector, rim running big. And a lot of teams like that guy. And I wonder, depending on what happens with one, if Minnesota trades down, where does Okongwu end up going? To me, is one of the things to watch for in the draft, because I could see a number of teams also trying to trade up for him from their position, either in the middle or the late lottery. So Okongwu, to me, is somebody that isn't being talked about as much as some of those top guys, Wiseman, LaMelo, Edwards, and understandably so. But he is somebody that has quite a lot of interest from teams drafting in the middle of the first round, where if he doesn't go 3, we'll see what happens.
How about, all right, so him versus, and I know they're different positions, but OKORO from Auburn. Which one are you higher on?
I mean, I have Okongwu ahead of OKORO. With OKORO, freshman wing from Auburn, there's little doubt that OKORO is going to be able to come in right away and be an impactful defensive player with his body, 6'6", 230 pounds, long arms. I mean, he's built, really tough. He looks like an Iguodala with the muscles and all that.
Yep.
And he could very well become an Iguodala type of defender. To me, the concern with him is he shot 29% from 3, shot 67% from the free throw line. And not only were they low percentages, but he was often a reluctant shooter, somebody who passed on open shots and instead gave it to another teammate or drove into the lane sometimes when it was packed. And he's a good player, and I think he's going to be a really impactful player for you. But the shooting ability, I do have questions about that could limit his upside. Whereas with Okongwu, it's a different role, and the shooting isn't necessarily as important. Though I do think Okongwu can develop a shot as well. He showed some mid-range touch on floaters and shots from the elbow area.
Okay, let me ask you this, and I'm not saying this to poke holes in it. I'm asking this honestly. Is this kid, do you feel like he is higher? And he has risen a little bit, and you've talked about some of the team. Yeah. Because there's not bigs. This is so light on bigs that in another year where there were a bunch of bigs, like, okay, do you look at this guy? Let me try to think. Okay, a couple of years ago, the Luka draft, there was a bunch of bigs, right? Wendell Carter went, like 7th? Mm-hmm. Something like that. Is this guy a better prospect than Wendell Carter? That was somebody that you really loved. So I'm just bringing up a name, right? But now Wendell Carter in a different year might have been.
I liked Carter more as a prospect.
Interesting. So it is partly because of the year that this kid is falling into, and that there is a lack of, there's not a lot of 6'9s that are on this thing. You know what I mean?
If you're plopping, Wiseman or Edwards into the 2021 draft, they're not going top 3. They might not go top 5, maybe not even top 6. No, the next year, 2021. Some of these, whoever goes number 1 might not go top 5 next year. Mm-hmm. And it's the type of thing where when it comes to Okongwu being the third pick, that can only be said about this year's class. But comparing him to other prospects, I'd say I still like Wendell Carter a lot.
Yeah, I do
I
too.
still do like him quite a lot, but I probably favored Carter slightly more than Okongwu. Though I will say this, Okongwu shows more versatility on switches than Carter did in college. And
Yeah, I
that,
just
that's
wondered
something that
because
it's
some
close.
years
It's close between them.
Some years we got a lot of bigs, and some years we don't. And so, like, the fact is it because you're in a year? It's kind of like how there were a bunch of guys that said, you know what? I'll wait until next NFL draft to come out. I'm a receiver, right? There's 50 guys that are going to get drafted in the first round. So this ain't the year for me.
Unfortunately, if you're Trevor Lawrence, you can't go back because then if you go back, the Jets will still have the number 1 pick the following year.